Welcome to the Middle School Cafe podcast, where we're serving up fresh strategies and solutions for ELA teachers just like you. Join us as we explore proven methods to bridge the achievement gap and help every student reach their full potential. Whether you're a veteran teacher or just starting out, grab a cup of coffee and a notepad and let's get started. Here's your host, Carolyn Wall.
Hey there, and welcome back to the Middle School Cafe podcast. I'm Carolyn, and today we're digging into something I know many of us wrestle with: independent reading. I think it's the dream of every ELA teacher to have students who genuinely love to read, but with more and more districts adopting textbooks or basal readers as their main curriculum, that dream can start to feel out of reach. In episode 45, I talked about why independent reading still matters, even when your district uses a strict curriculum. So today, I want to pick up where I left off and focus on the how, specifically, how we can use reading challenges to keep our middle and high-level readers engaged and growing. Students need different approaches, and reading challenges are just one way to reach those who are ready for more. Reading challenges aren't meant to fix disengagement, but they can be incredibly effective for students who already like reading, or at least don't mind it, but just need some structure, direction, and variety to keep them moving forward. Let's start with what a reading challenge actually is, because this can mean different things in different classrooms. I'm not talking about a big bulletin board tracker or a school-wide contest where students race to log the most books. The focus of the challenges is never on how many books you read or how long you've read. And I'm definitely not talking about anything that requires a prize or reward system to work. A reading challenge, in this context, is a low-pressure structure that gives students some direction in their independent reading. It helps keep students who are already willing to read motivated, especially when they're also working through textbook stories or articles that may not interest them. Think of it as a set of open-ended prompts or tasks that help readers stay engaged and keep moving forward, not because they have to, but because it gives their reading purpose. You might challenge your students to read a book in a genre you usually avoid, or find a character who reminds you of someone in our class text, or choose a book by an author you've never read before. These aren't assignments. There's no worksheet attached. You can offer them as a menu, post them on the board, add them to your weekly slides, or simply introduce them during class discussion, whatever fits your style. The goal is to help students reflect, explore, and stretch a little beyond their usual patterns. For your stronger or more confident readers, that might mean nudging them out of their comfort zone, trying historical fiction for the first time, picking up a nonfiction title, or drawing connections between texts and real life. Reading challenges are also a way to prevent coasting. Strong readers often finish required texts quickly, and without something to guide their next step, they can become disengaged or simply rereading the same types of books over and over again. A well-structured challenge gives them new ways to think about what they're reading, while still giving them full choice over the books themselves. In my own classroom, I create a one-pager of challenge prompts and post it on the wall near our classroom library. It's not anything fancy, just a laminated sheet with open-ended ideas. Some students checked it weekly, others used it when they needed something new to try. I remember one student who typically stuck to fantasy. She noticed a prompt that said, "Read a book where someone tells their own story," and decided to try a memoir for the first time. It didn't turn her into a nonfiction lover overnight, but it opened the door to something new. And that's really the goal, not to change what students love, but to expand what they're willing to try. That's the beauty of reading challenges. They're flexible by design. You can make it part of your classroom routine, offer it as enrichment, or present it as an optional opportunity. There's no expectation that every student will complete every challenge, and it's not designed to be one more thing to grade. Instead, it's a quiet way to keep the reading momentum going for the students who are ready for it. Let's talk honestly for a minute about the biggest challenge all of us face: time. When you're teaching from a required curriculum, you're likely following a strict district pacing guide, prepping for common assessments, and making sure students are hitting specific targets by certain dates. So the idea of adding anything extra, even something like independent reading, can feel unrealistic. And that's fair. But what makes reading challenges different is that they aren't time consuming, they don't require grading, and they don't interfere with your required curriculum. You're not teaching new content. You're not creating extra assignments. You're simply providing a structure that lives alongside your existing curriculum. Here's how that might look in practice. Maybe your students have 10 minutes of silent reading at the start of class once or twice a week. That's a perfect space to introduce a challenge and let students reflect or track their progress. Maybe you use stations or small group work. One of those rotations can be a reading challenge station, just a spot where students check in with a prompt and respond in a quick journal, sketch, or sticky note. Maybe it's tied to early finishers. Instead of just handing a student a free reading book and hoping they engage, a challenge gives them something purposeful to explore without taking away their choice. You can also align some reading challenge prompts to the themes or topics you're already covering in your required texts. This makes the challenge feel more connected to your classroom work without requiring you to create new materials or plan extra lessons. For example, if your current unit explores the ethical use of technology, you might offer a prompt like, choose a book where technology plays a major role in the character's life. Or maybe your required unit is centered on survival or resilience. You could offer a prompt like, choose a book where the main character faces a life-changing challenge. By tying the challenge to the theme, you give students a way to extend what they're already learning. They're still reading books of their choice, but they're thinking critically about how those books connect to the bigger ideas you're discussing in class. These type of prompts invite students to draw their own connections between texts without you needing to guide every comparison. It gives your stronger readers the space to explore themes at a deeper level, and often they come back with insights that enrich the whole class discussion. It also keeps independent reading from feeling completely disconnected from the rest of your curriculum. Instead of free reading that's off in its own corner, it becomes part of a broader conversation, one that values student choice and critical thinking at the same time. And the best part? You don't have to plan or assess anything extra. You're offering structure and depth, but students are doing the work of making the connection. Remember, not every student needs to participate in every challenge. These challenges are especially helpful for your stronger readers, the ones who are ready for more, but they don't need to be required across the board. That level of flexibility is what makes this doable in real classrooms, where time and support vary student to student. Reading challenges are just one part of a bigger picture. Another way to keep students engaged, especially those middle to high-level readers, is by giving them leadership roles in your reading routine. Aside from student book talks, which I'm a huge proponent of, I love incorporating classroom roles that give students some leadership opportunities. These roles are small and low maintenance, but they send a powerful message. Reading is a shared responsibility, and everyone contributes to the classroom reading culture. Here are a few examples. Reader of the Week. This student gets to recommend a book to the class. They can do this by writing a short review, sharing a quick book talk at the start of class, or even posting their pick on a classroom bulletin board. It's a simple way to get student voices involved and help kids discover new titles from people they trust, their peers. Another role could be library curator. This student helps select the next genre or theme for your classroom book display. They might choose mystery, sports, or books with a twist ending. You can also invite them to write a little intro sign for the shelf or highlight a few of their favorites from that category. It gives them a stake in how the classroom library looks and feels. Plus, they're more likely to talk about books they've helped spotlight. This one is for your Type A student, someone who loves to be in charge and is organized. The Challenge Champion. This student tracks who's completed which challenges, helps introduce new prompts, and maybe even creates a challenge of their own. You can rotate this weekly or monthly. It's a great way to build student-led momentum around your reading challenge without putting it all on your shoulders. These roles don't require much prep, but they build pride, create authentic reasons for students to talk about books, and help shift the culture so reading feels like something we do together, not something that's just managed by the teacher. They give students a reason to talk about books with each other, and not just with you. It also signals to your class that reading isn't just something you care about, it's something the whole classroom values together. And speaking of value, Let's talk about recognition. Because encouraging students doesn't mean we have to give out rewards. Recognition doesn't have to be tied to totals and prizes. It just needs to be visible and meaningful. Sometimes that means posting names on a challenge completed board or featuring a student's book review in your classroom library. Other times it's as simple as a verbal shout out during class, such as Jordan just finished her second challenge of the trimester. Ask her about them. I focus on praising things like effort, curiosity, or a thoughtful reflection, not how many books a student has finished. Because while it's tempting to celebrate the big numbers, that approach can unintentionally discourage the readers who move at a slower pace or those tackling more complex texts. Instead of highlighting the quantity of books read, I aim to notice the small but meaningful milestones. A student who took a risk and tried a new genre, someone who connected two books and brought it up in discussion, a quiet reader who left a sticky note on our classroom board with a favorite quote. Those are the moments that show real engagement, and they're just as important, if not more, than finishing 5 books in a trimester. By shifting the focus away from speed or totals, we remind students that reading isn't a race. It's a process. It's about connection, growth, and learning to enjoy books on your own terms. And when we recognize those things in visible, genuine ways, it creates a culture where all readers feel seen, not just the fast ones. When we recognize the way students engage with reading, rather than just how much they read, we reinforce that reading is a personal journey. A student who steps out of their comfort zone, who sticks with a challenging text, or who asks a meaningful question about a character's decision is showing growth, and that's what matters. This kind of recognition invites more students into the conversation. It tells them that their reading experience is valid, even if they're not reading multiple books a month, and it helps shift the culture of the classroom so that reading feels inclusive, individualized, and worth celebrating at every level. And sometimes that's enough to spark interest in a student who's been hanging back. When they see their classmates being noticed, not for reading the most, but for thinking deeply or trying something new, it can make reading feel more approachable. That quiet, reluctant reader might not jump in right away, but over time, that positive energy around reading can motivate them to give a challenge a try, especially when the pressure is low. There's no grade assigned to it, and the recognition feels authentic. So that's today's takeaway. Reading challenges are one small, strategic way to keep your middle and high readers growing, even when your curriculum is locked in. They won't work for every student, and that's okay. But they can be a valuable tool to help students stay connected to books they choose, and that's worth protecting. And if you want to hear more about this topic, I'll be digging into it even more during my interview session at the Middle School ELA Summit happening July 28th through August 1st. If you're listening before those dates, check the show notes to find out how you can attend for free. Well, that's it for today. I hope you are enjoying your well-deserved break full of lots of rest and relaxation. Until next time. Thanks for joining me today. As a reminder, a new episode drops every first and third Tuesday, so be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Be sure to visit middleschoolcafe.com to find links to everything mentioned in today's show. Until next time.